All right, welcome back. Hello, everyone. First of all, welcome back to the Conviction Fiction. I am your host, Antoine Rivers, and today we have a truly inspiring story from a guest who is all about redefining his past, but also building something that will leave a legacy. Now, Zeke Wallace is a man who's walked a hard road, faced the consequences of four, not one or not two, but four drug related felonies and spending a total of 4.5 years in prison. But instead of letting his past hold him back, like most of the guests on the Conviction Fiction, Zeke took the tools life gave him and created something incredible. And it's a sanding block. I know you guys are like listening, like, what is a sanding block? And we're going to find out. But it's for woodworking, carpentry, and auto finishing. So after being released in 2024, Zeke taught himself CAD, right? And I know what CAD means, and I'm quite sure Zeke is going to tell you guys what CAD means. But he taught himself that, a skill, got a refurbished 3D printer, and turned an idea into a product. Now, his story is not only about resilience, persistence, and proving that anyone can start over. It's about what we try to highlight on the Conviction Fiction. It's a success story. So I'm glad you're here. Get ready. Get ready, guys, for another episode of the Conviction Fiction. All right, Zeke, thanks for joining, bro. I'm glad that you're here. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. We got a little thunderstorm brewing outside, so if the lights go out, we still got power on the phone, so we'll be good.
All right, awesome. You got one of those Generacs or something, like one
No, I
generator.
just got my phone. I just got my phone charged up for the interview.
There we go. There we go. So, Zeke, I'm just going to go ahead and get into it, man. You know what we were about. We were able to talk a little bit prior to this, but we're going to get into the backstory, man. The beginning of the story. You had your share of struggles, like everyone else. What has life like before you turned things around? What was life like before everything turned around for you?
The best way I can really describe the way things were before is just that there was nothing. There was no goal. There was no purpose other than to hustle and to get high. You know, and that's what my life was for most of my adult life, really. Um, and I've learned a lot about myself. I guess really once we kind of hit our mid 30s, we really start to figure out who we are in a lot of different ways, and I've learned a whole lot about myself and reflected on my past, and um, there was nothing there, and I was hiding from myself, and I was wasting myself. So
Yeah. So, in and when you were in prison, we talked about this a little bit earlier. You spent your time reflecting, planning, and thinking about what kind of future that you wanted when you were finally free. Now, prison is always tough. Well, I mean, for people that have been there, it can be tough. For others that are probably still in there, it's a cakewalk, right? But
they're making the
it
best
gave
of it.
you this. What was that, bro?
Oh, I said they're making the best of it.
Making the best of it. Um, Now, the real challenge came when you were released and faced the uncertainty of starting over in a world that hadn't been, too much kind to you. So, with that being said, looking back, was there a defining moment that happened in prison that made you realize that you had to change your life?
Um, not
It was a
not
curveball. That was a
so.
curveball, bro.
It,
That was one of the
okay,
curveballs
okay.
we talked about.
So whenever I was about a year in, I went to a good time program, and at that good time program, another sort of program that they had running parallel with it was the high school equivalency test or GED
Yeah.
class, and I had the opportunity to tutor there. And I'd never really taught before, but I've always done well in school, and I've always been kind of a smart guy. But I had the opportunity to get up in front of people and sort of teach this curriculum and tutor people that grown men that couldn't read, and the reward that I got from that was whenever they would pass their test or they would come to me and ask me questions and all that. And I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of self and giving back too. So, but that was like the best feeling in the world for me, and I had other people around me that were doing the same thing, and I think that was probably the pivotal point.
Yeah.
I wasn't perfect. I wasn't perfect after that, but that was a time whenever I knew that there was something that could give me purpose other than what I had been doing before.
Awesome. I mean, I know about those programs. I helped with GD. I even went to the trade school, which I really wasn't too good at because they was talking about like brick masonry and stuff like that. And I didn't like know anything about that, but like learning how to read, being able to like write complete sentences and stuff like that, it really gave me an opportunity to serve, and it it gave me confidence. Like if I knew it and it can help someone else, then why am I not sharing it all the time? You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that's where I was. So how did you begin to plan for the future? I mean, you come into this new light, you come into this new focus. So how did you begin to plan for the future while serving your time? Because I want to know where this tool came from.
Well, all right. The tool. Let's see what is it? What is invention is a product of necessity. What is it? If you need something, then you're gonna figure out a way to make it. But anyway, so let's back up a little bit. Post my good time class, I went to a work release for a year and a half, and at that work release, I actually wound up getting a really good job, and they hired a lot of people out of the work release. It wasn't
Yeah.
anything special, but I enjoyed my job. I was always in a great mood. I was just happy to be out, and I've kept that job. I still have that job today. So that was huge.
Right.
So at that job, I'm an industrial painter, and the sand turtle was born in that environment. The sand turtle came from my need for a sanding block that fit into my process. So I don't know. I just got to it when I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if they made this? And then I made it. I just figured out what I had to do to make it, and I made it.
But here's the thing: like making something. I mean, here, for our listeners, an idea can be made to fruition. It can be made to fruition, but it's like a lot of backstory stuff that happens. But with that, you got to find a manufacturer, or in your case, you just made it yourself.
Yeah, I make them myself. I've got over 150 of them across the United States, and I make them on my desk. And I can support turning out about 8 a day right now, but I can scale in a couple days to get to 20 a day, if that. I'm pretty well set up to where if I need to take and invest in more assets right now, I've built a business in a way that I can fall back on that and invest in more equipment, and get it here and start producing more.
And that's an awesome story, bro. Like when I hear it, it's like I think about some of the ideas that I had in prison. When you are laying on a cot, you can have three
Oh, shoot.
thousand ideas come into your head, but to actually make them into
Oh, exactly.
fruition. So what was the hardest part about starting over after you were released, and especially with the dreams that you had? What was the hardest part?
Um, I I'm what they consider, I guess, I don't know if you're familiar with the term neurodivergent, but it's like ADHD and it's a couple other things stacked, basically on the autism spectrum. And I didn't
Mhm.
find this out about myself until I started trying to learn about myself and actually wound up getting some professional counseling and stuff. Anyways, so
Mhm.
so for me, the hardest part when getting out was there was about 6 months of a depression whenever I was really trying to find myself in
Wow.
society again. I got out and I had money from work release, and I was able to purchase everything I needed. I went and I paid cash for my pickup truck, for $4,000 cash for my pickup truck, and I went and I got my apartment and furnished my apartment and everything, and then it's like, okay, I've got all this stuff, now what? And I had to fall back on some of the stuff that I was into before, electronics and making things, and
Yeah.
so I got into robotics, and I got a robot. There's videos on my TikTok of me messing with the robot, and I wound up really how I wound up with 3D printer was I needed to make some parts for the robot, and I found a refurbished 3D printer on Amazon. Anyways, so it was the hardest part was the 6 months of depression that nobody tells you about. It was that adjustment period that a lot of people don't make it through.
Yeah.
And the best thing that I did was I followed other people's advice. Normally I'm hard headed. You tell me something, and I say okay, but I'm not going to do it. The best thing I did was whenever somebody was like, "You need to go do counseling," right when you get out, I went and did that. That was really what saved my skin, and I surrounded myself with people that weren't messing up or didn't even know what messing up was.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's important because we talk about it a lot on the podcast about mental health awareness. Like when you're put in a place like that, there are some issues that can come up or that are brought to your awareness. But the underlying thing is like there may have been issues or things that you need to know about yourself before you went in that even caused this shit in the first place. And I say that
Right.
in the kindest word. I don't normally cuss, but uh, I think you know what I'm talking about. Well, I mean, you have to find yourself, and for some of us, it takes going through prison. It takes going through some type of trial and error in order to get to our full potential. So you told me about this, like your mantra for creating or just for ideas is that you start with, wouldn't it be cool? Can you tell me about how that process went or how that came about?
Okay. So that the sand turtle came from that, and a couple other things have come from that too. And I'm working on some other projects right now that are going to be under the Sand Turtle Tools brand, and I'm really excited about them. But those are all born from that. But I didn't realize it until um, once the business got going and people became aware of it. I started to get approached by a lot of people, a lot of friends, and they were like, "Hey, I've got this idea," or "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if they made this like this?" or whatever, and they would actually be trying to sort of commission me to do something and I hate telling my friends no, but at the same time, like, I've got my hands full with my business, and I
Yeah.
would tell them, make it, like, go do it, like, go, I'll send you the
Don't
links to
waste
the I'll
time.
send you the link
Go do it.
I'll send you the links to the stuff, like, download Chat GPT and ask it questions and Google stuff and just look around. Like, if you want to make your thing, go make it, because once you do, you don't know what it can become. You don't.
Right.
The sand turtle wasn't the first thing I ever made, but it was the first thing. I went through a couple stupid things that whenever I was, just messing around, but learning CAD and stuff. But
Yeah.
um,
What is
just
CAD?
go
What is
do it.
CAD
Go
for the
go
listeners
do
that might
it's
not know?
CAD is computer aided drafting. It's an acronym for computer aided drafting, and I use a program called FreeCAD, which is a free open source 3D modeling or parametric modeling program where you can basically go in and um, use shapes and numbers and geometry to design things, and then once the design is to your liking, in my case, I will export it as a specific type of file, and then and load it into another program that turns it into a bunch of numbers for my 3D printer to process, and then it prints it out. So
Wow. Well,
CAD is the modeling software.
awesome. So for you guys that are thinking about designing, thinking about maybe needing a tool to make sure that your projects turn out right, Sand Turtle Tools, that's the place to go. Even with some insights on how to use the 3D printer, just reach out. I think that Zeke will be willing to help because he's been doing this like since he's been in prison. Like this is what he do. He tries to help people. Now, after your release, you had a job where you were working with sanding blocks, and that's where it all happened. Tell me about the pros and the cons of that job working with sanding blocks.
Um, I'm not so. Whenever I was assigned my job in work
Mhm.
release, I was assigned my job. They weren't like, "Hey, how does this sound? You know, would you like to do this?" I
Mhm.
basically told them that I wanted to go to this company, and they were like, "All right, we'll try to find you a job there." And then they put me in paint, and paint is something that I've never done before, especially in an industrial setting. And there's it's a very busy and very production oriented, production
Yeah,
focused
it's all
environment.
about metrics.
And
Yeah,
it is, right? So the faster you can get something done, the faster they can give you something else to do. And there wasn't a sanding block. They didn't have that. They had like air powered sanders, and then they
mhm.
had the sandpaper that went on those air powered sanders, but they didn't have anything in between. So if you wanted to hand sand something, you had to literally put the paper on your hand and sand it. There wasn't like a happy medium, or if you didn't, if it was too much to sand with your fingers and sandpaper, you would have to go get 100-foot air hose, and you would have to go get your sander, and you would have to drag the air hose out, and then you would have to get everything where you needed to be, and it was just such a pain in the butt.
Yeah,
So I thought, like, hey, what if I could just make a handle for these pads? They look a lot like this pad,
okay,
like the sandpaper sticks on there, and then the power sander would sit right on, would attach to the top of it. And I was like, well, what if I made this handle sort of thing that was comfortable, that fit on top of there? And
yeah,
the first sand turtle was looked a lot like a turtle. It was just a dome that screwed down on top of a backer pad. And
yeah,
a- anyway, so it made my job a lot easier. And as far as being in the industry, in the paint industry, and not really liking what I was doing 100%, I could be okay with it. I could find my happiness and my joy in it, but it wasn't my preferred career. But being
right.
able to use that and go to work and test my products, and shoot video on lunch of me using it, and use that for promotion, like that, just they gave my job like that, it like bumped it up so
Yeah,
much, where it like I was excited to go to work. It's like I might be paying for somebody, but I'm also working for me too. So
yeah,
so that's one that was a really really big plus.
man. So you're very inspiring because after your release, basically you had a job where you're working with sandblocks, and an idea struck you, and you came up with this thing where wouldn't it be cool to if there was a better way to sand these things, and that moment led to the realization that you didn't have to dream up about a solution; you could create it. And with no prior experience in CAD or 3D printing, um,
At all.
at all. You decided to teach yourself the skills and using a little bit of technology. We talk about technology, and especially for people that have been locked up for years and years, technology is different. What you have to do is leverage it. Okay.
Right.
And that curiosity led into an action, and I appreciate you, Zeke, for sharing your story. Um, so tell me about the funding, because how did you actually go from just an idea to actually making it? You were a drug dealer, bro. Like you could have like easily raised some money somehow or another. How did that happen?
I'm also funded. I would so like I said, I've got a pretty good job, and painters make pretty decent money, and I've worked my way up to a salary that allows me to live, not lavishly, but
Yeah,
I get to pay my bills, and the bank account might be empty, but the lights are on and the fridge is full of food. Anyway, so it gives me the
yeah.
opportunity
That's what's
to
most
do some.
important. No, I'm gonna stop you there, bro,
All right.
because that's what's most important. As long as the lights are on, we have food to eat. Uh, we're good. We're not cold. We're not hot. We are good. Everything else is a luxury. Sorry about
That's
that. I
right.
just had to say that because
No, that's okay because that's big. That's
Okay.
big. So I'm self-funded. So I would stick back a little money, or I would just suck it up and suffer for a check or two, whatever. My first okay. So obviously with CAD you have to start with a computer, and whenever I got out of jail I didn't have a computer.
Yeah.
So I started asking my friends, hey, do you have any old laptops laying around? And this was before the sand turtle and before 3D printer, obviously, and I was just looking for some stuff to do, and I wound up getting a MacBook that was from like 2008, and I restored it and put Linux on it and taught myself. I was like, I want to learn Linux, so I was like, it's just as easy as Mac OS or Windows. It's just a little different. So
Yeah.
I started teaching myself Linux and stuff, and then so I had my computer for free. And then when it came time to get the 3D printer, I was shopped around for them for a long time, and I kept talking myself out of it, because the ones I was looking at were three, four, $500, and then I found this refurbished line that was on eBay. It was
Hmm.
Creality refurbished, and they were talking about like $150 for a printer that I was looking at that was $300, and they threw you in some filament too. So it's like you get the box and you put it together, and then you're up and running. So um, I ordered it, and you can download all kinds of models and stuff offline and get printing pretty fast. It's not like a big secret or anything, but so I really forgot where we were going. I'm sorry, I'm a little
No,
ADD.
no, 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 no. Because this is exactly what it takes. You're telling the story of how you basically you use your friends in order to get a computer, just to do some stuff, and then you leverage the money that you had saved up and all that to get um a 3D printer, and that's exactly what it takes. I mean, you saw an opportunity, and then you went for it. You taught yourself
and
CAD. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, and then everything kind of builds on top of itself after that. Like like you said, I didn't get out of jail thinking like, oh, I'm gonna go design this sanding block, and I was just looking for stuff to do. I was like, what am I gonna do with my time? I had a girlfriend, and she's wonderful, but she's got a life of her own too. So
Yeah.
I've got to find something to do in between now and
Let me
then.
ask you
So like,
this. Let me ask you this to keep the conversation going. Were there ever moments when you thought like this isn't gonna work, or were you just all in from the start? Were there like doubtful moments?
so are you talking about my business?
Yeah, like starting up, like getting your friends' computers and trying to learn CAD and learn. Were there ever any moments that you said this isn't gonna work? Like I
Not
don't like I got a computer, but I got it now, and I wake up in the morning and I'm like, this isn't gonna work. Were there ever moments like that?
uh, Okay,
When it was
so
doubt.
those moments didn't happen until I really got focused on the business. Back whenever it was, it's like, oh well, this looks cool. I'm gonna buy it, try it out, or I get this for free, and it's just sort of piecing stuff together, piecing parts together, and just figuring out just stuff to do, keep myself busy, and learn a little bit along the way in between, sleep and work and personal life. So no, there weren't any of those moments that I can really
Okay.
remember. But once I started the business, is whenever they came. Oh my goodness! So whenever you start a business, and you do the podcast too, and
Yeah,
I
I
know you know,
know.
you're like, man.
I go through
So
it every
man,
day.
is it even worth it? Like I just went through it like 10 minutes ago while we were talking. And it comes in waves, man. It's like I won't see a sale for 2 or 3 days, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And then am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? But whenever I did it, I was like, I'm gonna get behind this. I told myself this, and before I went to jail, before whatever it was changed in my life, I was not a committed person to anything,
Right.
and I wasn't, I was wishy-washy and flaky, and I did what I had to do to get me and all this stuff, and I was like, what, I'm not gonna do that. So whenever the Santero came out and people were like, "Hey man, that's badass! Like you can use that to get out the
Yeah, yeah.
hood," I said, "You know what? I'm getting behind this, and I'm gonna push it no matter which way we gotta go." And whenever the down spots hit, I'm like, you know what? I'm still here. I'm still here, and we're still moving, and I've still done something. And sometimes I do have to call my business mentor, and I got it's a roller coaster, man. But yeah, there are
Yeah.
definitely doubts.
Yeah. Awesome, bro. Like, and I know they were putting setbacks because I've had those setbacks even in my podcast career. I got a couple of books that are out, and sales like for a month. You start looking at the metrics and all that kind of stuff. You're like, wait, what the fuck? What am I doing this for? You know what I mean? I made some mistakes and setbacks, but I don't have any regrets because one of the most important things about getting out of prison or just living life is being able to make peace with yourself, make peace with your past, make peace where you can, whatever lot that you have been given. I don't know how spiritual we can get with this, but whatever lot you've been given, bro, like work with it. Work with it. You can make something productive. It doesn't matter where you have come from, including prison. Because I know for me, prison had taught me that, failure wasn't the end for me. Because at one point when I was in prison, I was like, man, this is terrible. Especially when they turned me down for like parole or whatever. I was like, they turned me down. Like they're not gonna let me out. Like what the hell? And at that time I was doing like great things. I was helping people. I was helping people get their GED. I got into the recovery realm when I was like doing like 12-step recovery and all that other stuff, cognitive behavior change and all that stuff. And they turned me down. I was like, what the hell am I doing this for? But I learned through my mentors. That's why I appreciate when you were talking about your mentors and people that you still reach out to today. They kept me afloat. They told me there's like, you know what? They're really testing you to see like if you were just doing all those GD classes and helping people out and that you're just trying to get out, basically. So they're going to see how you deal with adversity. They're going to turn you down. Bam, turn you down.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you going to do? So how often, like the relationship with your mentors, are these like people that are lifelong mentors or just people you picked up along the way?
Okay. There are people I picked up along the way, and
Okay.
I've got a couple people that I call mentors that are more like friends, and then I've got a couple people that are mentors that I hold in very high regard and have a lot of respect for, and they never don't answer my text messages or phone calls, and I always tell them how grateful I am for them. As a matter of fact, you interviewed one of them. That's my dog, and
Josh?
he, yeah, oh
Oh,
yeah,
he's so
man,
funny. That's my guy.
Josh is
That's my guy too. So you can't have him no more. That's my guy too.
he made these shirts for me, and he
Yeah.
made hats, man. And I mean, I paid for him, I paid for his services, but it's like,
Mhm.
man, man, mentors are where it's at, because you can't do this by yourself. If you're going to go out and
Yeah.
start your own business, and you don't have like a 100% support team with you, those doubts will creep in, and you'll wind up leaving it. And there's the hard times. But yeah, my mentors are a lot to me, and there's a lot of people that are pulling for me, but
Mhm.
there's not a lot of people I can call that understand my perspective and understand
Yeah.
where I'm coming from, like I can with Josh or whoever.
Yeah, that's very important, man, because doing those long nights of learning and trying to figure it out and having those little doubts that, hey, what am I doing? It's always great to have someone that you can rely on, someone that can say, hey, man, no matter where you've been or nowhere, no matter where you think you're going, it's very important to keep a positive mindset and to keep it moving. I appreciate that, bro. I met with Josh. Let me tell you, it's a strange story about Josh. So I'm gonna like pull myself up. So here's how I met Josh. I was on a vacation in North Carolina at it was like a resort, and I went through the summer because I'm broke. I'm just like saying I don't have a lot of money, bro. I'm pretty broke. So we went to a resort that was a ski resort. It was like a mountain in North Carolina or whatnot. And I saw inmates to entrepreneurs on the television in North
Yeah.
Carolina. And I'm sitting there after like dealing. I got a 7-year old. We was talking about that earlier. I was like, I went to the room and kind of closed the door because I didn't want to deal with Like I'm on vacation. I want to chill, man. I want to chill. Go look outside on the balcony, and there's no snow. So I'm in a mountain resort in the summer. I'm in a mountain. So I turned on the TV and the Spectrum One. It was a local station in on North Carolina, and they talked about it makes the entrepreneurs. And of course, I do the podcast, so I brought my computer with me, and I just started sending out like emails to them. I'm like, contact information, and that's how I guess at the end of the day, that's how I met you because I
Yeah,
connected with Josh because he's like one of the board members or something like that. He works with
yeah,
them,
he's
and yeah.
and
So yeah, go ahead, sir.
oh, I was just saying he facilitates the classes and everything, and I do if somebody's just getting out or has spent time behind bars, they
Mhm.
qualify to be part of the inmates to entrepreneurs. It's an 8 week class, and you go. It's yeah. I think it was every Tuesday for me. Was whenever it was, but that's where I met Josh, and that's where I got to do. Anyways, it's wonderful, and I highly recommend it to anybody that's considering starting their own business. Inmates to entrepreneurs. It's really easy to sign up. You don't have to pay for it, and you're not going to lose out on anything. I promise if you take
Awesome,
that class.
awesome. And I mean, because you truly created something remarkable. So this is a question like for your vision. What's next for you?
I'm gonna keep growing. I'm gonna keep growing the line. I've got some other projects I'm working on. Some products that are very unique and innovative. I'm pursuing the patent on the sand turtle right now. I've got a provisional patent, which basically gives me time to get up the money to get the full patent, which I
Mhm.
don't have. But we'll get there,
So
and
you want
uh,
to get
and
there?
and yeah, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get a real patent number. I've got a provisional patent number right now. I get to say the Santoro is patent pending, which is huge. So next I've got like I said I've got some other tools that I'm working on that belong in that sort of category with the Santoro
Mhm.
shop stuff and handy tools and not gadgets. I don't want to call them gadgets. That sounds cheesy, but
Yeah.
special types of flashlights and that kind of stuff that are specific to surface finishing and that kind of stuff.
Awesome, man. So hey, look, I want you to hang out with me right after this. I'm gonna do like the closing. So, with that being said, guys, Zeke's journey is far from over. He's got big plans for his standing block, and he's also looking to expand into creating other tools and products for people in the trades. Now, the ultimate goal for Zeke is to did I say Zach? That's crazy.
No, you said Zeke this time. You're good.
Okay, I'll go back and edit. That's why it's recording. Um, but creating other tools and products for people in the trade of finishing and surface finishing. That's very important. His ultimate goal is to build a brand that represents not only innovation, but the idea that anyone can change their life, no matter where they've been. It's all about showing people who have been incarcerated that there's always a way forward and that their past doesn't define their future, especially with classes or offerings, workshops like inmates to entrepreneurs. So before I wrap up, I want to make sure that anyone who wants to connect with Zeke or support his work has a chance to do so. So, how can our listeners get in touch with you and learn more about your products?
You can get in touch with me directly through the sandturtletools.com website. It's www.sandturtletools.com, and you can go to the contact page and type in, fill out the form right there and type in your message, and I'll get the email. And I usually respond in minutes. It comes up on my phone, and I'll answer any questions you have or be of any assistance that I can. Also, the Sand Turtle Tools Facebook page. You can get in touch with me there, and I need followers and likes and social media presence. So if um, if you don't mind, please give me a follow.
I mean, hey, you guys better go find Zeke's products and all of those updates here because they can be found on the website and he's also active on social media, including Facebook. where he shares his journey and new developments. So make sure to check out the links in the show notes to learn more about Zeke and his work, because I try to promote all of the success stories that are out there, because they don't get their credence. I mean, you have these guys on here, they're still posting videos about people fighting in prison. I think that's asinine to me. But Zeke, I want to thank you again for being here today and sharing your story. It's powerful, and I know it will inspire others. I mean, you might not think it's powerful, but like not having nothing, reaching out to your friends, bro, and making a tool that thousands, hundreds, thousands of people are using from nothing. I know it will inspire others who might be in the same position that you once were. So if some of the conviction fiction followers reach out to you like, hey, what is 3D printing? Don't blame me, right? That was your fault.
No, yes, please do reach out. I'm down to help anybody that I'll give you whatever information you need.
All right. So to everyone listening, make sure that you check out Zeke's sanding block and all of the other tools on Sand Turtle Tools, and follow this journey. As always, thank you for tuning in to the Conviction Fiction. Until next time, keep pushing forward and rewriting your own narrative. Now, let me stop here because this is my public service announcement. So if Zeke's journey inspired you, I want you to share this episode with someone who could use a little bit of motivation. I mean, coming from whatever background that you're coming from, like whatever issues that you are dealing with your health, with your mental health, with your spiritual health, it doesn't matter. Just be sure to check out this episode and share with someone so they can follow this journey, because we don't know where it's going to lead. I think it's going to lead to some amazing things. Links to everything are in the show notes, so don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more powerful stories on the Conviction Fiction. Thanks for listening, guys.